So the first tip to becoming sub 20 is to be able to plan your cross during inspection. So it's really important because you have to be able to look ahead to your first F2L pair as you do the cross. So if you're trying to become sub 20, you don't have to plan your first F2L pair, but it's good to plan your cross so you can look ahead to your first F2L pair, and that way you can reduce your pause. So I'll just quickly walk through an example of how I would do this cross. So I just randomly hand scrambled it. It's an alright cross. So red, orange is here. They're set up opposite to each other, which is a good thing. We got green and blue here. So not the best cross because orange, green and blue are all on the same side, but that's alright. So what we could do here is we can move green under blue like that. So we can move it over, and so now we have 3 of the cross pieces set up onto the opposite centers, which is good because that means they're correct relative to each other. So I would insert orange, red like that, and then I would align the cross and put blue in like that, then align. And now I have time to look ahead to F2L pairs, so I could do this corner and probably this edge. Yep, so I could have done that as my first F2L pair. So you're not really wanting to plan your F2L pair at this stage if you want to become sub 20, but you definitely want to try and look ahead to your first F2L pair. So speaking of F2L, the next thing that's important to becoming sub 20 is to have good F2L, like efficient F2L. So what do I mean by that? Well, for example, this case, if you want to break this pair up, you want to break them up in a way that pairs them up. So not like this, for example. So I could break them up like that. That's how I used to do this F2L pair before I learned advanced F2L. That's not the most efficient way to go because I've broken them up and now I have to pair them up again. So with advanced F2L, what you want to do is to break them up in a way that pairs them up. For example, this I could do a sledgehammer here, and that breaks them up and pairs them up, so I can go straight into the insert. Another example is when you have pieces in slots. Now this will happen quite often in F2L, so you have to know efficient ways to do these cases. So you don't want to be just taking out the corner in any random way, because that doesn't result in a paired F2L pair, and you'll have to pair them up again, which uses more moves. So with these cases, when you have pieces in incorrect slots, you want to take them out in a smart way that pairs them up. So in this case, if I put the edge here and I take the corner out, that pairs them up, which I can save some moves and go straight into the insert. The third tip to becoming sub 20 is good finger tricks. So good finger tricks reduce regrips, which save a lot of time, especially during F2L. So a lot of people regrip during F2L and it's unnecessary. So for example, this corner and this edge can actually be done without a regrip. So when I was starting out, I used to make this mistake as well. So I used to regrip like that, and because that's easier to do the U move like that, and that pairs them up. But alternatively, there's no need to regrip at the front. From this hand position, you could do the U with the pinch move here, and that saves the regrip at the beginning and the end of the trigger, which makes it a lot faster. Another way to reduce regrips is to insert with U2s, especially for back slots. So what do I mean by that? So for example, this case, so this corner and this edge here, they can be paired up like that. And the most common way to insert this pair into the back is to move it to the back and regrip like that. Now this regrip is necessary because if you don't regrip, you'll have to do these awkward finger tricks, which are probably slower than just regripping and inserting normally. But that could all be avoided if we insert in a different way, which is to do U2 inserts into the back. So once again, I want to pair these two up like that. And then what you could do is move it over here, and this way I can insert without a regrip. And so U2 inserts in back slots are really important as they do save regrips. And finally, know how to do U2s with both hands. So if you only know how to do U2s with your right hand, for example, then with this case, you'll have to regrip every time to do that case. but that's not necessary because your U2 can be done with your left hand as well. So if you have your thumb starting out from the front, then you could do U2 with your other hand, and then that whole sequence of moves doesn't require any regrips. Now the next tip to becoming sub 20 is to know your algorithms. So I don't mean know all of the algorithms. For example, you don't need to know full OLO to become sub 20. What I mean by this is when you see a case, know exactly what algorithm to use, even if it's 2-look OLO. So for example, this case, when I see the L shape, I should know immediately which algorithm to use. And so that would reduce my pause times and overall reduce my times and help to get sub 20. And same goes for PLO. However, it is recommended that you do know full PLO if you want to become sub 20, as 2-look PLO wastes a lot of moves which are quite unnecessary. So with PLO, once again, you want to get to the point where when you see a case, as soon as you recognize it, you should know which algorithm to use. So that, once again, will reduce your pause time and help you get sub 20 faster. And the final tip to becoming sub 20 is to be able to recognize AUFs. So this isn't, once again, it's not a must have. You don't have to be able to recognize AUF, but because it's so easy, you may as well do it, because pausing during AUF is quite unnecessary, and it could take up to a second for you to recognize which way to AUF. So if you're averaging like 21 or 22, just simply knowing where to AUF could drop your times significantly. So I'm not going to go through all of them. I'll go through some of the trickier ones. So for example, R-perms. A lot of people don't know how to recognize AUF for R-perms. So the way to recognize is to look at the color in between the headlights. So it's orange, which means that after the algorithm, orange will be at the front. So if you use this algorithm, orange will be at the front. I'll just have to do a U prime to finish AUF. Another one of the trickier AUFs is actually J-perm, because this 3x1 bar actually moves around a lot during the algorithm. I personally don't actually look at the 3x1 bar. I look at this 2x1 bar at the front here. So this actually is the bar that stays put. So this bar doesn't move. And so because it's orange here, I know that orange will be at the front after the algorithm. So I know I have to do a U prime after the algorithm. Finally, AUF for G-perms is another one of the PLOs that a lot of people struggle with. It actually depends on which algorithms you use. So if you use the RUD ones, it's looking at the headlights, and if you use the algorithms with wide moves, it's the 2x1 bar here. So I use the RUD one, so I look at the headlights. So these headlights are red, which means that red will be here after the algorithm, so I wouldn't have to AUF in this case. So those are my top 5 tips to becoming sub 20. It is what helped me to become sub 20, and so I hope it was helpful to you guys as well. Yeah, happy cubing. Hopefully you get sub 20 soon as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you learnt something, and I'll see you next time.